One reason money advice causes so much confusion is that people keep taking advice from players in a different game. A day trader, a retiree, a founder, a young saver, a pension fund, a gambler, a family trying to buy a house, and a billionaire protecting a fortune may all use the same words: risk, return, opportunity, safety, value. But they may mean very different things because they're playing very different games. Welcome to the final part of this summary of the psychology of money. Here we cover Housel's last major themes: different financial games, the seduction of pessimism, why people believe compelling stories, the book's final principles, Housel's own financial confessions, and the postscript about why American consumers think the way they do. Chapter 16, You and Me, explains that people can make different financial choices because their goals, time horizons, constraints, and incentives differ. A price that looks insane to one investor may make sense to another who has a shorter time horizon or a different game entirely. This matters because financial media often mixes everyone together. Long-term investors hear from short-term traders. People saving for retirement watch people speculating for the next quarter. A cautious household compares itself to someone taking risks with money they can afford to lose. The result is confusion. You start judging your game by someone else's scoreboard. Housel's warning is simple: know what game you are playing. If your goal is long-term independence, then a short-term trader's excitement may be irrelevant. If your time horizon is decades, today's market drama may not deserve the emotional power it gets. If you need stability, someone else's aggressive strategy may be completely inappropriate even if it works for them. This is a liberating idea because it reduces envy and panic. You do not need to copy every successful person. You need a plan that fits your goals, temperament, horizon, responsibilities, and definition of enough. The fact that someone else won a different game does not mean you're losing yours. Chapter 17, The Seduction of Pessimism, explains why bad news often sounds smarter than good news. Pessimism appears intellectually serious. It sounds like someone has seen through the illusion. Optimism, by contrast, can sound naive even when it is grounded in long-term evidence. There are reasons for this. Losses hurt immediately. Threats demand attention. Bad news often arrives suddenly, while progress happens slowly. A recession can be announced in headlines. The gradual improvement of technology, medicine, productivity, and living standards is harder to dramatize. Decline has a press release. Progress has a schedule. Housel is not saying pessimists are always wrong. Bad things happen. Risk is real. Markets crash. Economies break. People suffer. The point is that pessimism can be more persuasive than it deserves because it sounds protective. It tells us, I'm the adult in the room. Optimism has to work harder because it asks for patience. The mature position is not blind optimism. It is the same barbell attitude from earlier. Expect problems, prepare for setbacks, and still recognize that long-term progress is possible. You can be paranoid about what can go wrong this year and optimistic about what humans can build over decades. Chapter 18, When You'll Believe Anything, turns to stories. Housel argues that the more we want something to be true, the more vulnerable we become to a story that says it is true. This is dangerous in money because money already touches hope, fear, status, and identity. People need stories because the world is complex. A good story connects dots, reduces uncertainty, and gives us a feeling of control. But stories can also outrun evidence. In markets, a narrative can make prices feel justified. In personal finance, a narrative can make a risky decision feel like destiny. In politics and economics, a narrative can turn incomplete information into total confidence. The problem is not that stories are bad. Housel himself is a storyteller. The problem is unearned certainty. We form a complete picture of the world from partial information, then forget how partial it is. We fill gaps with assumptions and call the result reality. The antidote is humility. Ask what you do not know. Ask what would have to be true for your story to be wrong. Ask whether you believe something because evidence supports it, or because it gives you comfort, status, or permission to do what you already wanted. Chapter 19, All Together Now, gathers the book's lessons into practical principles. Housel emphasizes humility when things go well and forgiveness when they go badly. He recommends saving like a pessimist and investing like an optimist. He values independence, room for error, endurance, and a plan you can stick with. The rules are simple on the surface, but they are not shallow. Be less impressed by visible consumption. Increase your savings rate. Avoid the moving goalpost. Respect uncertainty. Do not risk what you need for what you do not need. Define the game you are playing. Leave room for error. Value time and control. Accept volatility as the fee for returns. The beauty of the book is that none of this requires predicting the next market cycle. Housel is not handing readers a secret code. He is offering a temperament, patient, humble, independent, realistic, and aware of human weakness. Chapter 20, Confessions, makes the book personal. Housel explains how he thinks about his own money. His approach is not designed to impress a finance textbook. It is designed to give his family independence and peace. He values a high savings rate, broad investing, low debt, and decisions that help him sleep. This chapter matters because it demonstrates the reasonable over-rational principle. Housel is not claiming his personal choices are perfect for everyone. He is showing that finance must serve life. His goal is not to maximize every possible return. It is to build a life where money provides control, resilience, and fewer forced decisions. That honesty is useful. Many financial experts present certainty. Housel presents a philosophy with trade-offs. He is willing to accept that some choices may leave money on the table if they increase independence and reduce regret. In a culture obsessed with optimization that is almost rebellious, the postscript zooms out to consumer history, especially in the United States. Housel explains that people's money behavior did not appear from nowhere. It was shaped by post-war prosperity, rising expectations, credit expansion, inequality, housing, debt, and social comparison. Consumer behavior is partly personal and partly historical. This returns us to the first chapter. No one is crazy. People respond to the world they inherit. If a society teaches that a good life should be visible, financed, upgraded, and compared, then many people will behave accordingly. If credit makes lifestyle expansion easy, the future may quietly be borrowed to decorate the present. The postscript does not remove responsibility. It adds context. Personal choices matter, but choices happen inside culture, incentives, advertising, policy, memory, and expectation. Understanding that context makes the book more humane. It also makes the need for personal clarity more urgent. So what is the full message of a psychology of money? It is that financial success is not about becoming the smartest person in the room. It is about behaving in ways that let time, humility, and endurance work for you. It is about avoiding ruin. It is about knowing when you have enough. It is about understanding your own game. It is about saving for a future you cannot fully predict. It is about valuing freedom over applause. The book's advice is simple enough to repeat and hard enough to spend a lifetime practicing. Spend less than you earn. Save. Invest. Be patient. Avoid catastrophic risk. Do not let envy run the budget. Do not let headlines run the portfolio. Do not copy people whose goals are not yours. Do not risk reputation, freedom, or family for a little more status. For a viewer, the final reflection is personal. What is your money actually for? Is it for admiration? Security? Freedom? Family? Options? A number on a screen? Revenge against an old insecurity? Proof that you have made it? Until that question is clear, more money may only amplify confusion. Housel does not ask readers to hate money. He asks them to put it in its place. Money is a tool for building a life with more control, dignity, resilience, generosity, and peace. When it becomes a scoreboard for ego, it can never be enough. When it becomes a servant of freedom, even modest wealth can become powerful. Thank you for watching this full summary of The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. If one idea stays with you, make it this: the best financial plan is not the one that looks most impressive. It is the one that lets you survive uncertainty, sleep at night, stay patient, and live according to a definition of enough that actually belongs to you. Final close. Know your game. Protect your independence. Respect the future surprises. And remember that wealth is not only what you accumulate. It is what your money allows you to stop worrying about. The idea of different games is especially important in the age of constant financial commentary. The internet collapses every time horizon into the same feed. A trader's urgent warning, a retiree's income strategy, a founder's concentrated risk, a young investor's index fund patience, and a speculator's jackpot story can all appear next to each other as if they belong in the same conversation. They do not. Knowing your game protects you from borrowing someone else's emotions. If someone with a 1-week horizon is panicking, that may not matter to a person with a 30-year horizon. If someone with enormous wealth takes a risky side bet, that may not be a model for someone building their first emergency fund. If someone is optimizing for status, their choices may be useless for someone optimizing for independence. The pessimism chapter explains why staying with your own game is emotionally hard. Bad news is vivid. It feels responsible. It travels quickly. A warning sounds smarter than a patient reminder that progress can continue. Housel does not ask readers to ignore bad news. He asks them to understand its persuasive advantage. This is useful because markets and economies are always giving people reasons to quit. There is always a recession risk, a political risk, a valuation risk, a technology risk, a war risk, an inflation risk, or a new phrase invented to make ordinary uncertainty sound freshly terrifying. Some risks become real. Many pass. The long-term investor needs a way to respect risk without becoming owned by every headline. The belief chapter adds another layer. People do not only believe what is true, they often believe what helps them make sense of uncertainty. A story that promises quick wealth, certain doom, permanent safety, or secret knowledge can become attractive because it reduces anxiety. The more uncertain the world feels, the more valuable a confident story becomes. That is why Housel's final principles are deliberately humble. Save more than you think you need. Leave room for error. Be kind to yourself when outcomes are bad and humble when they are good. Use money to gain control over your time. Do not let comparison define your needs. Accept that volatility is a fee. Avoid games you do not understand or cannot afford to play. These principles may sound plain, but plain is part of the strength. A lot of financial damage comes from the belief that the answer must be complicated because the world is complicated. Housel's answer is that behaviorally durable simplicity can be more powerful than fragile sophistication. The Confessions chapter reinforces that money is personal. Housel's own choices are shaped by what he values: independence, family security, low stress, and the ability to sleep. Someone else might choose differently. The point is not to copy him exactly. The point is to make your own financial choices serve your actual life, not someone else's idea of optimization. The postscript widens the lens by showing that consumers are shaped by history. Expectations rise. Credit expands. Inequality changes comparison. A society develops stories about what a normal life should include, and then families try to live up to those stories, sometimes with money they do not yet have. This context makes individual behavior easier to understand, but it also shows why personal clarity is necessary. In the end, the psychology of money is powerful because it lowers the temperature. It does not promise certainty. It does not flatter readers with secret genius. It says that ordinary behaviors, repeated for a long time, can be extraordinary. Spend less than you earn, invest with patience, keep enough room for error, avoid ruin, and remember why money matters. The final test is whether money improves the quality of your life. Does it buy time? Does it reduce fragility? Does it help you care for people? Does it let you make decisions from values rather than panic? Does it give you enough independence to avoid becoming a servant to every paycheck, market mood, or status contest? If the answer is yes, then money is doing its job. If the answer is no, then more money alone may not fix the problem. It may only make the same psychology more expensive. The final section also shows why Housel's book has reached so many readers. It gives permission to stop pretending that finance is only about expertise. Expertise matters, but ordinary people need a philosophy they can live with more than they need 1,000 clever predictions. The book says that behavior, patience, and self-awareness are not second-class financial tools. They're the main tools. This is especially important for long-term investors. The biggest threat may not be missing the perfect forecast. It may be abandoning a good enough plan because someone else sounds more certain. Certainty is emotionally addictive. A confident voice can make humility feel weak. Housel's answer is that humility is not weakness. It is risk management. The postscript's consumer history lens also softens the way we judge modern spending. Many people are not simply irresponsible in a vacuum. They live in a world where comparison is constant, credit is accessible, housing is expensive, expectations are high, and status signals are everywhere. That context does not erase responsibility, but explains why responsibility requires conscious resistance. The final rule, then, is to make money boring enough to work and meaningful enough to matter. Boring enough that you do not keep interrupting compounding. Meaningful enough that the sacrifices connect to freedom, family, resilience, or peace. Without meaning, discipline becomes resentment. Without boredom, discipline becomes entertainment. And entertainment is a dangerous investment strategy. The book ends as a reminder that wealth is not one thing. It is numbers, yes, but also behavior. It is assets, but also options. It is returns, but also endurance. It is what you own, but also what you no longer have to fear quite as much. The final lesson is also a useful filter for advice. Before accepting any financial opinion, ask whose game it serves. Does it serve your time horizon, your family responsibilities, your temperament, your need for liquidity, and your definition of enough? Or does it serve someone else's need for clicks, commissions, drama, or status? Once you ask that question, many loud opinions become easier to ignore. Not because they're always wrong, but because they may be irrelevant. A good financial life is not built by reacting to every voice. It is built by knowing the few principles you trust enough to keep practicing when the voices get loud.